Okay, I'm a Necromancer. I've been playing a lot. This video here is going to be me going through every single legendary the Necromancers have. I'm going to be talking about them, saying my opinion of them, what I think of, where they're good, stuff like that, okay? Basically, they give you a feeler on each of these items. I will have timestamps for, we're going to go helmet, shoulders, chest, legs, weapon, and then offhand in that order. As you can see down below, we're just going to go left to right, top down, that simple. Let's get going. So starting with the helmets. Skeletal champions replace skeleton archers. This was one of the first items I actually got in the game, and I actually believe is quite good. I think that the archers are really hard to shake in PvP and can be used for poke quite often. During my Rite of Exile, I actually ended up using these because I was using the archers to go out and poke at the people. They actually do pretty good damage. Typically in PvP, we're more a support type of build and a CC type of build, so we're not really out there trying to do the damage, so you don't really use this as much. But I don't think skeleton archers are that bad for single target damage. In particular, I use them on occasion for PvE, and also the archers almost have aimbot. They land like 90% of their shots. They're really good. So Kofar Eyes, I literally never use this. Skeleton champions don't respawn quick enough, even with the shield that we'll talk about that makes them respawn quicker, in order for this to be useful for me. The Crown of the Gilded Leash that raises a single powerful skeleton. I end up using this during times of farming. Like if I'm doing Elder Rifts or I'm farming in the overworld, I see this as something when I'm overshotting most of the minions I'm farming. I use this because he doesn't do tons of damage, but he's really convenient to be able to whirlwind. And so for that reason, I use this mostly as a farming device. The bone spikes that cause people to bleed actually is a pretty good DPS item. I'm not going to lie. The bleed is substantial. The damage is substantial. You get 3 charges of this. I've used this in both PvE and PvP. I think it's worse in PvP than the next one we're about to talk about, but it's got something to be said for it for PvE. I could see an argument and build around it. The no face is probably, or no mouth face is probably the best one, just because the reason being is it's an immediate knock-up that you can cast in a prong. It shoots in 3, so it's very easy to land in PvP, and it actually can be pretty useful in PvE if you need some more, CC, for instance. Knock-up's pretty good if you're using Chip of the Stoneflesh or something like that. Then you're also going to want something like this plus the Fear of the Legs. So here we have Skeletal Mage Duration. This is more of a PvE DPS type of build, like if I was trying to do the Heliquary raids or something like that, or if I was anywhere that really you're in a standing location beating up one big dummy. That's kind of what this is. The Command Golem Duration is anytime you're really going to run Desolatoria weapon with any kind of Golem build, which is mostly going to be Desolatoria, we'll talk about in a bit. That's when you're going to be using that. And then Shudder Spike here is something that I haven't really been able to get to work for me. I'm not quite familiar with where I would want this, because in most situations, I would rather have the 3-prong knock-up in PvP, because it's got potential to penetrate and knock multiple people in a longer area. But it might have a use somewhere that I just haven't found. So here we go. Rotspur, potentially our best legendary item. Rotspur, in my own personal opinion, is the majority of our damage in things like challenge rifts, and reason being is it's going to give you multiple chances to proc things like Seeping Bile, if you have Seeping Bile, for instance. Plus it does really good continual damage, and if you have any sort of CC, or you can slow people, etc., again, Seeping Bile, it's going to pair really well with that. Now, Lone Preserver, the one below it, is maybe our other best legendary, because if you aren't going the Rotspur build where your damage is coming from the corpse explosion, is coming from elsewhere, like maybe you're doing, I don't know, Desolatoria, Molten Golem, or you got damage coming from elsewhere, okay, maybe Bone Spirit for all I know, then this will basically provide you all the CC you need as long as you can generate enough corpses. The stacking freeze, I think it only takes, it's like 3 or 4 is what it really ends up taking corpses to be able to completely freeze out a pack to the point where they essentially can't move at all. Like the CC is significant. And for that reason, I actually find this to be quite good. It's very good, in fact. The corpses pulling themselves towards the nearest enemy, that's what those little spider corpses look like when you see them running towards people. I don't really care for this one myself personally. It's probably nice for farming, but when I'm farming, I don't want corpse builds anyway, because then I have to generate corpses in order to farm stuff, and the whole point of farming is just to be able to instantly delete a pack while it's there without having to have any kind of contingency. The Bone Spikes range I've used on occasion. It's going to be better more in PvP. When you don't really have another shoulder choice, it's going to be your PvP choice. Skeletal Mage here, increasing your damage again. This is going to go pairing with the helmet and sort of the beat 'em up type of build I was talking about when you're fighting bosses, etc. Dark Curse duration can be pretty good for like a summon build when you're doing Frenzy, for instance. Like if you have, let's say, Command Skeleton, with the archers, you got, your Golem, you got your Mage, and then you have like Dark Curse with Guided by Maggots pants on that will make everyone frenzy and attack quicker. Then Dark Curse can be quite good. The Grave Dirts await here. Bone Armor now grants immunity to all effects which knock you out of position. This is probably your go-to PvP build. I use this one significantly. Also, it's going to help other people in your party grant immunity as well, which basically... which is a lot of PvP. I mean, basically PvP boils down to CC and control, and you're going to want this in order to stop that from happening to you, is basically what it boils down to. This one here I haven't got yet. I would assume this is the only legendary that I really don't have for the shoulders here, and I would assume this one is absolutely nutty. Skeletal Mages are a huge chunk of our PvE damage. I would assume either this one, the bonus Skeletal Mage damage here, or the Dark Curse are going to be your PvE choices. Moving on to chest, okay? So, Parting Gift, one of the best legendaries in the whole game, makes it where you become completely immune to damage for 5 hits. The problem with this is if it's you're standing on lava that triggers like 50 hits a second, it's basically useless. But if you are fighting like a big boss where he has a big one-shot mechanic where he has one big hit that one-shots you, it's literally God tier. Like, you can, in the raid, you can totally ignore the one-shot mechanic by just having this ability on. That's all you have to do. You just have Bone Armor on, and then everyone completely ignores the mechanic of it. It's actually really good. So Parting Gifts, yeah, triple S tier for me. Generating corpses as you move can be quite good for the corpse building or the corpse builds. So like the freeze one where you have to have a certain amount of corpses in order to completely CC people, this one can be quite good for that. Can be good for Rotspur too, because you can kite people with the Wraith and then turn around and also leave the corpses behind. I tend to like the Fear one from the pants as well, and you can pair them together, which can be quite good. Inviting Tomb, I thought was going to be good pre-launch. Actually playing with it feels way worse than I thought it was going to. It feels very hard to trap people inside of it. People often glitch through it, trying to actually trigger the shield later that we'll talk about here that makes it where you can ignite the bone wall is difficult. I just don't like this one. Ever-Grasping Vestments is okay. I mean, it's sort of a emergency, like, get away from me type of mechanic, which is if you have people jumping on you with like Whirlwind Barbarian stuff can be kind of nice. I don't really find me using it because in PvP I would rather have this one, which is the Exuminance or how would you say this, Backbone, which is basically a pillar that comes up and knocks people up. You get 3 stacks of it, and you can cycle like knocking people up into Bone Spike, into the Fear from the Wraith, into knocking them up again to another Bone Spike, into knocking them up with the 3rd one, and you can basically CC people out for about 20 seconds solid. The Covenant, nothing here. Bone Armor now also damages enemy when activated, increases their damage. This can be good if you're over leveled. Like if you're way stronger than what you're farming or you're doing something like Elder Rifts, it's immediate damage. The damage is actually like, it's not amazing, but it's not trash. Like you can hit the button and do significant damage to like just normal mobs, and it's instantaneous and just activates to the people around you. So it's not complete garbage, okay? But if I'm farming, I would rather have the one below it, which is the Flickering Warmth, which does the 3 bone spikes that constantly float around me, killing things around me. Way rather have that. And then the Corpse Damage Explosion Radius, I would way rather have as well, if I'm pushing things like Hardcore Challenge, Rift PvE, etc. Now, moving on here, I actually have these pants on now, and I'm going to be extracting the essence. It's my personal favorite pants. The pants is the one that fears people when you wraith form and touch them. Basically, you become a scary ghost, a scary ghost, and people run away. It triggers things like Chip the Stone Flesh, and it's really good in PvE. It's one of our best CCs. So Bone Wall duration increased by 30% can be okay, especially paired with the Bone Wall I was talking about before, because it can be annoying. Corpse Lance damage is basically garbage because no one uses Corpse Lance. Bone Armor duration increases what I use when I'm pairing it with the rotating bone spikes, the Flickering Warmth, for farming reasons. Dark Curse now cursing the ground in the area, causing enemies within it to take continual damage. This actually isn't terrible. I've tested this. The damage is not bad. There is something to be said for Dark Curse with this ability. A Dark Curse causing enemies to explode on death is insane when you are farming, when once again you are stronger than your location, because basically once you kill one thing, everything blows up if you curse a region. The Guided by Maggots is one of our best pants, is really good for the summon build and is your go-to summon build pants, because it's going to make that curse we talked about earlier, make all your attack speed of your summons go up. And then the Limb of Dark Curse now decreases enemy attack speed and movement speed instead of decreasing vision. This can actually be kind of okay in PvP, but the thing is, I don't like it because I would rather just have the fear. Now moving on to weapons. Command skeleton damage, that is for single target damage if you're trying to increase your single target damage, namely your skeleton archers. Your corpse explosion damage is going to be good for challenge rift pushing when you're doing things like Rot Spur. I don't really use the stone golem that throws boulder. Technically, it's supposed to be our highest DPS move in the game. I don't think it's something I would actually use realistically. Bone spirits damage by 10%. This is nice because it's continual, consistent penetration damage that's fairly hard to get elsewise in our kit. So I actually do end up using Bone Spirits on the rough occasion. Command Skeleton does a golem that gains power from nearby corpses. This is deceptively good. Like, it doesn't seem like it's good, but when you get him fully powered up, he can smack pretty hard. I'm still not terribly impressed because Desolatoria, in my opinion, is just the clear-cut and dry winner. Molten Golem's just really, really, really good. Continual damage is great. And also when he's crawling out of the ground when you're originally summoning him, he causes damage as well. And when he's jumping, he causes damage. Actually, just really solid hero or move or item. Bone Spear. Poison enemies, this is our PvP move, basically. This one is going to trigger all the barbarians when they're running away, and then they end up dying from the poison that's bleeding them out when they thought they got away with 1 HP. On top of it, it's going to stop people from bandaging for way longer, and it's basically just there to piss people off. And then this one where you leave behind a thing that forces enemies to attack it like a taunter is actually kind of okay in Challenge Rift. It's not terrible, to be honest, but you're probably going to end up using a different one anyway. So those are the weapons. Now, the offhands are where it gets interesting, because I think, in all honesty, I think our necro offhands are basically dog water. Like, I think they should be better. The prong is what I have currently equipped and I'm going to extract. It basically makes it where your skeleton champions are raised quicker. This is better when you have 4 of them with like the archers. The whirlwind captain isn't dying as often because you're really just using them for farming, and the skeleton archers and stuff can die on occasion, which also make it where this basically generates corpses a little bit quicker for you. I still don't really like this one. The one above it makes it where your skeleton champions are going to receive 10% of your damage. This is only really for like challenge rift pushing, or maybe, which you can't really even challenge rift push with a lot of skeleton champions because they get one shot by stuff anyway. So you have to use the archers to kite them, which then is too much single target damage, and it just doesn't, it's not really good. So basically these just aren't that great. The bone wall can be okay because you can ignite it. Especially the one where with the knock up, where you like knock up to the ignite, but it's hard to actually get the soul fire to land onto the bone wall, so it makes it artificially worse than it actually is, because it's hard to actually get the damage out of this one, or else otherwise it could be decent. This one's maybe our best one, where the soul fire bounces between additional target. This is just basically more PvE farming damage. The welcome end with the powerful Grim Reaper is really fun and looks cool. Unfortunately, the Grim Reaper is a little bit of a bait. It's more for like cleaving noobs and like farming minions, because if you try to use this for anything like pushing, it's too squishy. It runs in, it's melee, it's going to die. Whereas the Skeletal Mage, and it has too long of a cooldown, whereas the Skeletal Mages, you can get multiple up of them at a given time. Even without the shoulders to give you multiple stacks. The damage is piercing in a straight line at least, and it seems to have better single target PvE damage anyway, so it's better on the bosses. Your golem splitting into 2 smaller golems when it dies. I haven't actually had a chance to use this one. I think this is the only item in the game I haven't really got a chance to use now that I think about it. I could see it being okay. I think if you have the helmet on that I was talking about earlier that gives the duration by time it dies, you're going to be having the other one radiant about 3 seconds anyway, so I'm not typically too worried about it. The golem damage is the one I end up using like 90% of the time, because I think it's the only thing that really actually does anything. And I've tried this one where it collects the summoned projectiles around you, and the damage is just too bad, and the range is too short, and the amount of projectiles it allows you to cap at is too low. So if Corpse Lance just needs a buff, in my opinion. The Corpse Lance just doesn't really seem viable in the current iteration of it, in my personal opinion. But that's all the legendary items. Thanks for all the new subscribers. We've been getting a lot of subs. We broke 40,000 subs. If you watched this video, learned anything, or at least you got what you wanted out of it, consider subscribing. Still over, I mean, we got a lot of new subs, but still over half the people that are watching the video aren't subs. Totally fine, but if you do, it helps a ton. Love y'all. Anyway, see you on the next video.